Quavo, Takeoff, they was down here with y'all. But they seen you walking by. He's laying on the ground. You got Mike bending down, and they seen you walking by. What took place there?
It's the crazy thing about that video, right? Is
this is a problem, Jay Prince, and I'm gonna tell you like this: if you're 60 years old and you're trying to be a street you failed. You failed. I'm telling you this.
Hey, man. Yeah, man. We got a little bit of straightening going on. You feel me?
The room went silent the moment Mace checked Jay Prince in front of everybody because nobody expected that kind of confidence, aimed that high, that calm, that direct. This wasn't yelling, posturing, or fake tough talk. It was controlled, precise, and uncomfortable in the way truth usually is. Fans felt it instantly. When someone speaks without fear and doesn't rush a word, the power in the room shifts. Mace didn't try to dominate the moment. He owned it by refusing to shrink. And in hip-hop, refusing to shrink is louder than any threat. The culture noticed the difference right away. This wasn't drama for attention. It was presence. It was standing 10 toes down with nothing but words and timing. What made the moment sting was the contrast. Jay Prince is known for moving with authority, for being treated carefully, for conversations changing when his name enters the room. That's the aura, but this time the aura didn't freeze anyone. Mace didn't raise his voice or act impressed. He spoke like an equal. That alone flipped the script. In a space where many people usually nod along or tread lightly, Mace questioned narratives and power straight up. Not disrespectful, not reckless, just firm. And firmness hits harder than aggression because it shows you're not nervous. Nervous energy gives power away. Calm energy takes it.
And I'm gonna tell you another thing. When you're dealing with older people, they're the last to know that things have changed. We not your little like the way you talking. I don't get what you mean. We're not your little like for real. And I'm gonna tell you another thing. When you're dealing with older people, they're the last to know that things have changed. We not your little like the way you talking. I don't get what you mean. We're not your little.
The crowd reaction told the story. You could feel the air get tight. People leaned in instead of laughing. When fans lean in, it means something real is happening. They weren't waiting for insults. They were waiting for the next sentence. That's when humiliation sets in quietly, not because someone is embarrassed by jokes, but because the room realizes a hierarchy just got challenged without violence, without yelling, without backup, just words. Words backed by certainty. This moment didn't come out of nowhere either. It came from years of people feeling like certain voices go unchecked. The culture has changed. People aren't impressed by reputation alone anymore. They want substance. They want clarity. They want to see if power still holds when it's questioned politely and publicly. Mace provided that test, and the test hit because it was unexpected. Nobody thought he'd be the one to do it, and nobody thought he'd do it like that. By the end of the exchange, fans weren't talking about who won an argument. They were talking about what just changed. Respect dynamics don't shift often in hip-hop, but when they do, it's memorable. This felt like one of those moments. Not explosive, not chaotic, but seismic. The kind that doesn't trend for a day and disappear. The kind that gets referenced later when people talk about fear, power, and who's really comfortable speaking their mind in a room full of legends. As the clips started circulating, the conversation deepened because people realized this wasn't about insults. It was about boundaries. Mace didn't cross a line. He drew one. Drawing a line in public changes how everyone else in the room stands. Some step back, some step up, and some realized the line was overdue. The culture read it as someone finally saying what many thought but wouldn't say out loud. Not because they couldn't, but because the cost usually feels too high. That's why fans were stunned, not by what was said, but by who said it and how calm it was delivered. The streets understand hierarchy, but they also understand earned voice. Earned voice doesn't come from intimidation. It comes from lived experience and self-assurance. Mace spoke like someone who didn't need permission. That's rare. Most people ask for permission with tone, posture, or hesitation. He didn't. That absence of hesitation made everything else louder. Silence after a statement can be humiliating when it confirms there's no immediate comeback. Silence says, that landed. and it landed hard. Fans also noticed that Mace didn't attack character. He challenged positioning. That distinction matters. Challenging character looks personal. Challenging positioning looks strategic. Strategy commands respect, even from people who don't agree. The culture picked up on that immediately. That's why reactions weren't split down the middle. Most people respected the approach, even if they were surprised by the target. Surprise plus respect equals viral moment. That's how it spread so fast. Another layer that made this moment powerful was timing. The culture is already questioning old power structures. People are less afraid of titles and more focused on transparency. When someone with credibility steps into that moment and speaks plainly, it resonates. This wasn't about tearing anyone down. It was about removing the mystique. Mystique only survives when nobody questions it. Once questioned publicly, mystique either adapts or fades. Fans felt like they watched Mystique get tested live. The reactions weren't chaotic because the moment itself wasn't chaotic. There were no threats, no raised voices, no wild claims, just a firm stance that said, "I'm not moving off my position." That's grown energy. Grown energy makes people uncomfortable because it can't be dismissed as emotional. You can't say someone was out of control when they were clearly in control. That's what made this humiliation different. It didn't come from being clowned. It came from being calmly challenged. By now, the story wasn't about Mace versus Jay Prince. It was about whether the culture is entering a new phase where authority gets questioned without fear. That idea scared some people and excited others. Either way, it stuck. When an idea sticks, the moment becomes bigger than the people involved. It becomes a reference point. As the dust settled, the discussion turned reflective because moments like this force people to rethink what power actually looks like. For a long time, power in hip-hop meant being untouchable. It meant nobody said your name sideways, but untouchable isn't the same as unchallengeable. The culture realized that difference right here. Mace didn't disrespect legacy. He refused to be overshadowed by it. That's an important distinction. Respect doesn't mean silence. Sometimes respect means honesty. Honest moments are uncomfortable, but they're necessary if the culture wants to grow. People also noticed how this moment inspired others to speak more openly in their own spaces, not recklessly, but confidently. Confidence spreads when it's modeled well. Mace modeled how to speak firmly without escalating. That's leadership without titles, leadership that comes from self-belief instead of fear. The streets respect that more than any reputation. That's why the clip kept resurfacing. People weren't replaying it for drama, they were replaying it for lessons. The situation also exposed how much the audience has matured. Years ago, this might have turned into wild speculation or extreme sides being taken. This time, most reactions were measured. Fans discussed tone, timing, and delivery. That tells you the culture is listening differently now. They're not just reacting emotionally, they're analyzing behavior. Analysis is power. When the audience analyzes instead of panics, narratives shift slowly but permanently. Another thing that stood out was how humiliation doesn't always look loud. It can look quiet. It can look like someone realizing the room isn't moving with them anymore. It can look like a pause that lasts a second too long. Those are the moments that sting, not because they're embarrassing on camera, but because they reveal change. Change in who people feel comfortable challenging. Change in who gets automatic deference. That's a big deal in any culture built on respect. By this point, the moment had become symbolic of a new energy where people aren't afraid to speak plainly, even when the stakes feel high. That doesn't erase history or legacy, it just balances it. Balance keeps cultures alive. When balance disappears, resentment builds. This moment released some of that pressure, not with chaos, but with conversation. Conversation always wins in the long run. In the end, what shocked fans wasn't just that Mace spoke up. It was how normal it looked once it happened. That's the real takeaway. Once someone finally does what everyone thought was impossible, it stops feeling impossible. It just feels overdue. The culture didn't explode, it adjusted. Adjustments are signs of growth. Growth doesn't scream. It settles in quietly and changes behavior. That's what this moment did. This wasn't about humiliating someone for entertainment. It was about redefining how respect works in modern hip-hop. Respect isn't automatic anymore. It's active. It's maintained through transparency, dialogue, and consistency. Mace didn't take anything away from anyone. He stood on his own square and refused to be minimized. That's powerful. Power that doesn't need permission. The aftermath will matter more than the clip itself. How people speak going forward, how conversations happen behind closed doors, how comfortable people feel questioning narratives. Those ripple effects are already happening. Fans can feel it. The energy shifted slightly, but permanently. That's how cultural moments work. They don't announce themselves, they reveal themselves over time. What this moment proves is that fear-based respect is fading. Confidence-based respect is rising. When someone speaks calmly, clearly, and without fear, it forces everyone else to reevaluate how much power they actually hold. That reevaluation is healthy. It keeps the culture honest. Honest cultures last longer than controlled ones. If this breakdown helped you see why this moment stunned fans and why it mattered beyond just a viral clip, make sure you like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next time the culture shifts in real time and shows you exactly where the power really is.